Welcome again to an overview of My Senior Center. And we are happy to be here with you and happy to see so many of you joining in today. I'd like to recognize my colleague, Susan Karp, who's also going to be helping today with the chat. So submit any questions you have for Chris Hamilton to the chat at the bottom of your screen. For training purposes, event is now being recorded, and by participating in this event, all attendees acknowledge their consent of this taping and agree for its later use. All recordings will be posted on MCOA's website as determined by MCOA staff. Please keep yourself on mute, or we can do that as well from our end. There are just too many of you to have an interactive workshop today. But like I said, we are happy to have you here, and please use the chat. And please rename yourself to include your COA. And now it's my pleasure to introduce Chris Hamilton, president of My Senior Center. Chris has 30 years of experience in information technology with a focus on helping organizations analyze their customers' preferences, reach new demographics, and improve funding. Before working with senior centers, Chris consulted with for-profit businesses like Apple, General Electric, The Gap, and E-Trade to develop analytics, data mining, and survey solutions with a goal of delivering better customer service. In 2006, while volunteering at a senior center in Massachusetts, Chris was introduced to Eric Anderson, who developed the first version of My Senior Center. Since then, Chris has been working full-time with senior centers around the country to help them automate and grow their operations while freeing themselves from paperwork. So it is my pleasure to welcome Chris Hamilton. Thank you, Chris.
Great, thank you very much. Can everybody hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay,
yeah.
And hopefully you're looking at my screen that says get rid of data entry and paperwork. Is that what you're seeing still?
Yes.
Okay, excellent. Well, Susan, if any, or Kelly, thank you very much. And Susan, if any questions come in, feel free to stop me from what I'm doing, and I will address those as they come up, since I want this to be interactive, but of course it's not feasible to sort of have people raise their hands. I can't see it. So what I'm going to do is talk about the My Senior Center system sort of from the beginning to the end. And I'll talk about the My Senior Center touchscreen interface. I'll talk about the staff system, and I'm also going to talk about the My Active Center interface, which is what a lot of people have questions about right now, because that's what's going to allow you to have people sign up for activities from home and even participate from those.
Why?
Can you guys hear me okay?
We can hear you now. Thank you.
Did I get muted?
You got muted and unmuted. I had some background. I had to mute some folks. Sorry.
Okay, no problem. So I'm going to be talking about the touchscreen interface, because I recognize that some people who are participating today don't actually have My Senior Center, don't know what the rest of us are talking about. So I am going to show that to you. I'm going to be talking about the touchscreen components that come with it, the key tags. Yeah, just about all of us have seen these key tags. Some of them people have a logo on one side, and some have just the My Senior Center logo. But it's the other side that's the important part, and that's where the barcode comes into play, and that gets read by the scanner. The scanner reads the barcode, runs off to the database, figures out who belongs to that card, and then welcomes them in by name. And I'll show you that as soon as I get rid of these slides. The webcam, many of you use a webcam to take pictures of your participants and store that photo right alongside their name in the database. We have handheld scanners that some of you use. I'll talk about those as well. Those are really useful for either a smaller operation, or if you're doing any outdoor activities, if you're starting to have programs in your parking lot or in the field next to the center, rather than have people go into the center and utilize the touchscreen right now, you can take one of these handheld scanners out and scan people's barcode and then just download the information later when you go back into the office. If you need to capture electronic signatures for something like an annual exercise waiver, we have a signature component on the touchscreen that allows you to put up whatever text that you want and then have people sign it right with their finger on the touchscreen and capture that signature digitally so that you can identify who has signed the annual waiver or a daily waiver or whatever it is that you might need, and it also captures the date of when they did that. If you're starting to look at credit card payments, we have an integration with a company called Card Connect. Many of you are already using that, but if you're curious about it, I will talk about it during the course of this, but you can also reach out to me afterwards. The credit card integration allows you to process credit cards over the phone, in person at the center, or if you're using the online registration component, the MyActiveCenter that I talked about. And we're about to release a new component to that that allows people to make a donation right through the MyActiveCenter interface, even if you don't charge. So it'll allow you to process a credit card for a donation right through MyActiveCenter as well. All right, I'm going to ditch the slides. We're going to get out of that, and then we're going to talk about the real thing. So what you'll see on my screen now is where it says, welcome to the Duxbury Senior Center. This is actually what the touchscreen interface can look like. Of course, it's going to be more specific to your center, but you can have any background photo on there that you want. And all you've got to do is send it to us and we'll load it up there for you. But think of that picture of the touchscreen computer that I showed you earlier, any photo that you want on there. And when people walk into your center, they'll see that usually at the front desk or in the lobby area, or in some cases you can mount it on your wall. And when people walk in, they'll take the key tag out of their pocket that you've assigned to them, wave it in front of the scanner. I'm going to go ahead and do that now. And then the screen changes to welcome that person by name. I've scanned in as someone named Orlando today, so you can see Orlando in the upper left, and then all the activities that are going on today. Now, because it's a touchscreen, you don't need a keyboard or mouse. You can just touch the activities that you want to sign in for. So as Orlando, I'm going to say I'm here for Tai Chi, pickleball. I'm going to have the hot lunch. And in the afternoon, I'm going to stick around and do yoga. And if that's all I'm doing, great, I'm done. I hit finish. Thanks, Orlando. The dog wags its tail. And then I'm into the center. But I'm going to scan back in as Orlando because I want to show you a couple of other things. When I scan in, of course, it remembers what Orlando is already signed up for. But now I want to make some changes here. Maybe I said to Susan, oh, you know what, I know you're short-staffed today. I will help out and answer the phones. So instead of doing yoga, I'm not going to have time for that this afternoon. I want to take myself out of that by touching it again, hit the remove me button. And because Orlando is registered as a volunteer at the center, he gets that button over on the left that says volunteer. Now, if he were not a volunteer, he wouldn't even see that. But since he is, going to go ahead and touch that button. And all of the volunteer categories that you have that are available to Orlando will show up on this next screen. Now, you might have 200 different things for your volunteers to do, but these are just the 9 things that Orlando is qualified to do. So you can control what shows up here on a person-by-person basis. So let's say Orlando, he said he was going to answer the phone. So he's going to touch that receptionist button. And for an hour and a half, put it in time right there, he's going to answer the phones. But before he leaves, he wants to put in his lunch reservation for later this week. So he click this meal button over here with his finger. And we're going to arrow out to July. And well, see, we're closed on Friday, so there's no lunch available that day. But on Thursday, yeah, that might be a good day to, since we're getting into beach weather, he's going to start his diet. He's going to do the salad platter and say, okay, and finish. So if you've got paper-based processes today, of course, that takes you a while. Those paper-based sign-in sheets stink, but you've got the touchscreen allows you to get rid of all of that. By having everything on the touchscreen, you've now got the ability to have people sign in for themselves right on the screen and essentially do that data entry for you. If you've already got MySeniorCenter, you might have, if there are any questions about that, Susan, that have come in, I'm more than happy to talk about them. If not, I'm just going to keep moving forward. I recommend to just about everybody that you keep the sign in, I don't have my card button turned on. See there in the upper right, that's the blue button. That can be really useful if someone forgets their card. That will allow you to have someone, I'll go ahead and touch it right now so you can see it, put in their first name and their phone number. And that combination of first name and phone number is enough to find a match for me in the database. So what's really happening behind the scenes, whether you use a barcode to check in or the first name and phone number, is it's actually going to the database and say, hey, do you have anybody that matches this? So by adding that entering the first name and phone number, it's going to do a similar lookup to the key tag, same exact functionality in a sense that, but just looking for a different data point. It finds that match and then presents it right on the touchscreen. I'm going to spend a couple of minutes talking about key tags because I know this comes up a lot.
Chris,
yes.
Chris, can I just stop you for a real quick question, please?
Go.
We're talking about touch screens. This is the era of COVID-19. Certainly in the COAs, the discussion is, and if this is premature, please let me know, but do you have any recommendations on cleaning the screen, on how to sanitize it?
No, great question. I'm glad you brought it up. So what I'm recommending to people, and really this is based on talking to the manufacturers and also talking to some infectious disease folks. I'm fortunate enough to have a friend who is a professor at Vanderbilt, who you see on CNN every once in a while, Dave Aronoff, and I talked to him and I said, is this the right approach? And he said, absolutely the right approach. He said, really the best thing to do is to put a little hand sanitizer, a dollop of hand sanitizer on a lint-free cloth. So not a paper towel, not anything scratchy, but a lint-free cloth. Wipe it across, left to right, horizontal, starting at the top, and then continue in rows until you get to the bottom. You really only need to do that once a day. And then in terms of utilizing the touchscreen, recommend, and I strongly recommend this to you, but make sure that people utilize hand sanitizer on their own fingers, in their hands, of course, before using the touchscreen and after using the touchscreen. If you were to try to clean the touchscreen after every single person interacts with it, first of all, you'd probably go crazy. And second of all, you would eventually kill the screen. But by cleaning the fingers that use the screen, you're going to be much better off. And it has the side benefit of making sure that everybody's hands are clean, at least for a little while when they come into the center.
Thanks.
Yeah, you're welcome. No, it's a very good question. And I have broadcast that out a few times in the Fun Facts newsletter. Probably will do that again in the one that's going to go out tomorrow. But it is a really important thing. We've actually put together a little graphic that was in the last Fun Facts newsletter that sort of shows a picture of that. A lot of folks asked if they could turn that into a poster, and by all means you can. In fact, I'm going to be including a larger version of that in tomorrow's Fun Facts. So you can download that, turn it into a poster, and just put it right there as people walk into your center. So you're more than welcome to use that. Free license to use that one. So let me talk about key tags again for a minute. The key tag really is a barcoded, the barcodes itself are sort of a weird font to represent numbers and letters. That's all barcodes really are. Just a goofy font, and you can buy those fonts and you can type in them just like you would in Arial or whatever your favorite, Calibri or whatever your favorite Microsoft Word font is. That font can be used on any number of different barcodes. So you might have a barcode that your participants come in that they use for CVS or Walgreens or the Stop and Shop or whatever. If you find that someone is always scanning in with the wrong card, maybe their CVS card or their Stop and Shop card, grab that card from them and assign it to them within MySeniorCenter. There is no limit to the number of key tags that you can have assigned to a person in MySeniorCenter. In fact, that's a good segue for me to get into the staff portion so you can see what I mean. On your screen now, you're going to see the login page for the MySeniorCenter staff system. I'll go ahead and log in right now. And when I click on a person, and I'm just going to get over here right now and do it, I'm going to click on Leanna Adler. This is the assign key tag area. And I'm going to show you something. I have 5 different key tags assigned to Leanna. So you can take that person's Stop and Shop card, CVS card, library card, whatever they use instead of the MySeniorCenter card that you've given them, and assign it to their profile right in here. So next time that they come in, no matter which card they use, it will recognize them as, in this case, Leanna Adler, and you're good to go. So again, no limit. If somebody carries a Dunkin' Donuts travel mug with them and it's got a barcode on it, great, use that. Doesn't matter. As long as it has a barcode that can be read by the scanner, and translate it into a number or a series of numbers and letters that you've got stored in that person's record, then you're good to go. Okay. All right, so while we're in the My Senior Center staff system, there's a few things that I want to show you that you may or may not have used in the past. And again, I know some of you don't have My Senior Center, so I'll sort of show a few different things here. During the presentation this morning, the secretary and Dave Stevens were talking about doing a better job of reaching out to different communities who may not speak English as their primary language. Something that's in My Senior Center is a translation engine. So if you see where I'm clicking right here in Leanna's record, I'm going to click on this language button and I'll just hit the drop down. The touchscreen for My Senior Center can automatically be translated into up to 72 different languages. So what that means is that if Leanna speaks Korean or Japanese or Spanish or Portuguese or whatever the language is that she speaks, you can set that right in here. The next time that she scans her card at the touchscreen, all of the activity names will automatically be translated into her preferred language. So again, talk about, and when I mentioned this to the secretary a few weeks ago, I said, you know, this is something that's built into the engine. She said, that's fantastic. I like that, because one of the initiatives that we have is to make sure that people who don't speak English are comfortable going to their local senior center and interacting with the tools that are presented to them and participating in the classes that are available. So that's something that's already there. The file information is where you'd store all of the contact and demographic information about a person. This is their name and address and phone and birth date, their emergency contacts, whether or not they are veterans, whether or not they live alone, all the demographic and contact data that you want to collect about each one of your participants. There's fields for it in here already. And much of that information is required if you wanted to really truly slice and dice the data to understand who you're serving and how. And I'll talk more about that when we get into the statistics portion. One thing I want to point out, though, is that there may be things that you want to collect that are outside of the generally accepted standard of data that we have in the database. There is a custom section within My Senior Center that lets you author all of your own fields. So you can create as many different fields as you want. And I'm going to go ahead and create one in here right now, just while we're doing this. And I'm going to say, let's create a new field. This might be something that's unique to the way that I operate My Senior Center. And I might want to know, how did you hear about us? Maybe you're doing a new member drive or something like that. And you want to make this a drop-down list. So during your new member drive, you want to know how did it work? How did you hear about us? Radio, flyer, friend, I don't know, whatever else. So you can create all of your own values that'll happen to show up in this drop-down list. And now I've got this custom field right here. So if I am doing this new member drive, I can come in here and say, oh, I heard about you from the radio ad on the local station. Okay, probably not radio, since radio stations are hard to come by these days, but a local cable channel would probably even be more likely. So you could say, I heard about you on the local cable channel, and save that information. And if it's kind of like the fourth thing that I ask people, I can even drag and drop that right here. You don't have to be an engineer or a software person to create your own fields and modify these forms. It is literally as simple as point and click. But if you do have any questions about how to do that, our support team is more than happy to help. So I'll go ahead and save that off. And if we have time toward the end of this, I'll show you where that custom field can come into play for reporting purposes as well. Okay. Any questions on that section that have come up, Susan?
No questions, but I do want to make a comment. The key tag?
Yes.
So if somebody loses their keys in the center, you can grab those, scan them, and find out who it is. Yeah,
you can, and it is a really nice thing. So this is a real story. I'll tell you something that just happened yesterday. I got a call from the chief of police in Petersham, found a set of keys, didn't know who they belonged to, but there was a My Senior Center tag on them. And he called me up, Chief Cooley, and he said, hey, I found these tags. Can you look up the person that they belong to? So I was able to look up who it is. I don't have access to all the detailed information, but I do get because of the system that we've built to look up key tags, I can find out the person's phone number and their emergency contact phone number. So I called the person that they belong to. I also called his son and let him know that the chief has their keys. So it is a really nice thing to have that identifier on there.
Great, thanks.
Sure. All right, so there's a couple of other things that I want to show you in here, the questions that come up a lot. This click to marry button right here, if you can see where my mouse is kind of bouncing around, that allows you to join two people together who share the same household. And that helps you as a COA director or staff member, so you don't send two pieces of mail out to the same household. So if you're generating mailing labels out of My Senior Center, you can just generate a mailing label and it'll combine those two people onto the same address label. They don't actually have to be married. It just basically is, we had finite amount of space to put on the button. So it allows you to join people up that share the same household, and so you don't waste your own money by sending stuff out. Okay. Defining someone as a volunteer, so they get that little volunteer button on the screen that Orlando had that I showed you earlier. So remember when we were looking at Orlando when he scanned in, he had a volunteer button on the touchscreen. In order to set someone up to have that volunteer button, you click this button right here, volunteer. If you utilize My Senior Center to keep track of your transportation program, or if you're looking to do that, by checking that box right there that says driver, they automatically show up as one of my available drivers when I'm booking rides by having that button selected. Okay. All right, now a couple of other things that I want to talk about while we're here in Leanna's record. In fact, since I mentioned transportation, let's do that right now. So if you utilize My Senior Center for transportation, or you're thinking about it, I'll play out a scenario. Let's say that Leanna calls up and she wants to book a ride. I pull up her record, could utilize the search box up here, and then click on transportation. That brings up this interface over here on the right. I want to go ahead and book a ride for her today. I'll make it simple for myself by I'll just say today, and I'm going to say I'm going to pick her up at, let's say 2:30. And we're going to pick her up at home. We're already in her record, so I don't have to type in her address. And we're going to say that she's going to go in the COA van 1. Whatever your vehicle names are, there's a separate drop down, separate area where you can customize what shows up in this list. I can assign the driver. So I'm going to say that, let's say that Annie is going to be, Leanna was the person we were just playing with. We made her a driver. So there she is right there. But I'm going to say Annie's going to be the driver here. And I'm going to say that this is a medical escort ride. You create whatever category names are meaningful to you from a reporting perspective. That's what will show up in this list. So as you report back to your funding sources, whoever they might be for your transportation program, make sure you use the same categories that they use or that they want to know about. Subcategory, provider, you can fill those in or not. And then you can come down here and even put a fee in, or any notes that you want the driver to know about. Oops. Round back and beep twice. I'll save that. And we're going to be bringing her, let's say 2:45 to the hospital for her doctor's appointment. I'll say okay. And now I have that ride scheduled for Leanna to go from home to the hospital. Probably not going to leave her there. So I want to create a return ride. And rather than fill out that form again, I just click over here where it says create return ride. It flip-flops the pickup and the destination. I can modify the time if I want. But while she's making this reservation with me, she says, oh, you know what? I know I'm going to get a prescription. Can we stop off at CVS before I go home? So again, rather than having to go through and book a whole ride, I can just come over here and click on add destination. I'll say she's going to go to CVS. So I just type a few letters. It's a context sensitive search. And now I have that ride from home to the hospital, then from the hospital to CVS and back home again. Now I'm looking at it on the screen, which is nice for you as you're booking it. But if I wanted to give something to my drivers, I can come over here and click one of the printable views. I don't actually want to print it. And this printable view will give me a listing of all the people that I'm picking up, where I'm picking them up, at what time, where I'm bringing them, and then any notes that I may have assigned, like here, pull around back and beep twice. At the end of the day, you can come back in here, enter in your vehicle mileage and the number of hours that it's on the road if you need to do reporting based on that. Okay. Any questions on that section that have come in?
Chris, actually, I have two questions if we can jump back to the married feature.
Sure.
The first question, and maybe I can just ask them both at the same time. So on the married function, so when they're beginning to input statistical data, do both names pop up? All right, that was the first part. Then the second question that came in with that is when you're printing labels on the married function, if the married couple has two different last names, how does that appear on the label?
Excellent questions.
Okay, so the
They're
first
kind
one,
of the same, I think.
yeah, I think so. So
Yeah.
thank you.
So there's a couple of different ways you can have the labels printed. If those are coming, if those questions are coming from people who already use My Senior Center, I'm going to show you a trick. So if I come over here into the settings section and I go into preferences, and I'm going to scroll down. Actually, I'm just going to, well, there it is right there, mailing labels. So I'm going to look right here. So you can, if they have, you know, your default can be to show Mr. and Mrs. if you know that you've got only married couples in your database. If you uncheck that, the default behavior is going to be it shows their full names, first name, last name, and first name, last name, whoever those people are, on the label itself. So again, you come over here, your view may be a little bit different. Instead, you'll have a settings button right here where my mouse is kind of moving around. And then you click on, I'll go back here so you can see the whole thing happen. You click on preferences, scroll down until you see the mailing labels section. And if yours is showing up as Mr. and Mrs., just uncheck that box. Okay. So I think that answers both of those questions.
No.
No.
Oh, well,
okay.
maybe it did, and I'm sorry. I was taking some notes with that. So the very first question was when they're married and they're doing notes. So for example, they've had a social service contact with the individual. Do both people pop up, or does just one?
So if you're so the way that My Senior Center is structured is that every single person has their own record in the database. So in terms of service delivery, whether that's a program, a ride, or an outreach function, each individual receives that service. So if you wanted to make sure that you got a service delivery for 2 people, you'd have to enter the interaction for the 2 people. Okay, I think that,
Okay.
Does that answer the question?
Yep, I think it does. Then I also have another question. And the question was, what if you don't have the contracts icon?
If you don't have the contracts icon right here, definitely let me know. Email me, chris@myseniorcenter.com, or email our support team, support@myseniorcenter.com, and we'll get that turned on for you. The contracts icon is the on the touchscreen that I was talking about, the ability to have people sign waivers. That's what that functionality is all about. So if I click on that section here, I can see the available contracts that I have, a lunch waiver and a fitness waiver. The fitness waiver is some text that I've got in here, and that I want to have that for anybody who signs up for the chair exercise. I want to have it pop up the text or whatever the event is that you care about, you can choose. And then you can also say whether you want that to happen at every day or have it happen on an anniversary or once a year. And then when they sign that, right, when they check in for that activity, it'll pop up the text and then they have to sign with their finger right on the screen. So if you don't have that functionality, certainly let me know or let our support team know, and we can just enable it for you.
Thank you, Chris.
Sure. All right, so let me show you a few other things in here. I know many of you have TRIPS programs, and of course this is a different world right now, so TRIP programs, just about everybody's TRIP programs are canceled for at least till the end of the year. but I'm going to show you how you can utilize My Senior Center to organize your trips and capture your trip programs. I'm going to find somebody who isn't signed up for my trip already. I'll use Willow. So let's say Willow calls up. She saw in your newsletter that you've got this really great trip coming up to the Fine Arts Museum in a couple of weeks. So she wants to sign up, and she's on the phone with you. And you click on her name, you click on the trip, and you assign her to a payment plan. Now, if your trips are free, then don't worry about it. You'd skip this whole step. But if you do charge money for trips, and those might be trips to the museum or the casino or whatever you might be doing. You might be a regular shopping trip that you do once a week to the local Walmart or something. In that case, that might be a free trip. But I'm going to show you how you would sign this up, and I'm going to assume a paid trip so I can show off a couple of other things. So I sign Willow up for this trip. It says that she owes us $25. I'm going to come over here to this payments icon, this $ underneath her name. I click on that. It's going to show me that she owes us $25 for the trip. And I want to process a payment for her. So right from here, I can click on the payment. Oops, click on this icon. And I want to pay it. First, I can generate an invoice for her, which gives me a nice PDF document showing what she owes. If not, I come down here, say that she's going to pay with cash, check, credit card, or utilizing money from her wallet. Now I'm going to explain each one of these things. Credit card and cash and check are pretty self-explanatory. But if you have a credit card processor hooked into My Senior Center, meaning that Card Connect option that I talked about earlier, you would pay with credit card. And you could, I don't have any devices installed on my setup, but if I had devices installed, it would have their names popped up right here. And then I could either manually enter the information by typing in the credit card information, or I could swipe the card if I have a credit card device. Now I don't have that right here, so I'm just going to go ahead and process it with a check. And there I go. Done. Successfully paid. And now I want to come over here and I want to look around at what I've done by generating a receipt for her. Gives me a nice PDF document of the receipt that she just paid. I can print this out, or I can email it to her. Where it says My Senior Center here in the upper left, your logo would go there. So each COA that we work with, we import the logo, we put it into the right places so it prints out on documents like this. Okay.
Chris, I have a question.
Please.
So if you wanted to print a full year of exercise classes in one form, is there a way to do that to show what's been paid?
By a particular person?
Right, because what's not unusual is that because participants many people get a discount on their insurance, or they get a rebate of like $150 if they can show that they have been participating in a health and wellness class. So it's not unusual that COAs get these requests at the most awkward time. So anyway, so I not to say that this individual was thinking about that, but I've been there. So
yeah, no, I'm glad, and that's the reason I asked if it was for an individual person, because there's another way to do it if you're just looking at how many people attended the class. But for each individual, you can come in and you could put in a custom range if you want. But if you wanted to do just a calendar year, you could just click the This Year button and hit Submit, and it'll show you, it basically generates a receipt of all of the items that they have paid for over the course of the year. Now, if you have programs that don't have a fee associated with them, then you can certainly generate a separate report. You don't have to go through the payments area to do that. And you could say, just show me all of the event check-ins that this person has participated in. And honestly, I don't know if this person has anything. Yeah, this person hasn't has any activities, but you can run for whatever date range you want, all of the programs that this particular person has participated in over the whatever duration you care about. Okay. So in each person's record, that's where you do things relative to that person, whether it's book a ride, sign them up for a trip, process payments for them, or generate reports specific to what they have done. That's what the statistics section in here does. The equipment loaner program comes up a lot, and I know it's, everybody's got equipment and more of it these days, especially as you might collect donations. The equipment section in My Senior Center is really useful in terms of keeping track of what your inventory of durable medical equipment might be, so that you don't have to take a phone call from someone who says, I really would like to borrow a shower chair for a few weeks. I'm recovering from hip surgery. Do you have any? Well, you might say, I really don't know. I got to go out to the shed and I'll let you know in a week when I come back and I avoid all the snakes. But instead, what you can do is you can look right in here in My Senior Center, as long as you've entered this in once, click on Rent Out Item and say, you know what? I do. I have 9 shower chairs and a porta potty, or maybe you might have a shower bench listed in here. You see whatever your inventory might be, and then you can loan it out. And do I want it back? Yes or no, whatever you care about. And now I can loan out that item. And at any time, you'll know what your inventory looks like for any particular set of items. Also in this section, I want to talk about, you mentioned, or somebody mentioned earlier about outreach services. I just want to show you how that would work. So in My Senior Center, there's a section called services. And what services are all about is making sure that you have a place to enter notes and capture interactions that might not be about transportation or home delivered meals or a program that you're offering or a trip or whatever. They're the other things, the things that are very important right now for what we're doing. That's the services section. There's a little teeny lock icon where my mouse is pointing. You might not be able to see it, but that lock icon indicates that this is a confidential area. So only people, meaning staff members, who have confidential access as part of their user profile are going to be able to access this whole section. If I'm, maybe a program person and I don't get involved in sort of the confidential interactions, then when I come to this screen, if I don't have permissions, it just shows up as blank. I can't actually do anything with it. But I have those permissions, so let's go ahead and use it. So I'm going to come in here and capture an interaction. So much like on the transportation screen where I was talking about how you could create category names that are meaningful to you and your funders, in this area you capture interactions and different types of assistance that you give, but you use the categories that are meaningful to you. And this can vary from COA to COA. So I can customize all of the things that show up on this interaction list. So I'll just use an example. Let's say that Willow comes in, it's an office visit, so I'll click on office visit. And during this visit, we talk about food assistance. And what I have done is I'm going to recommend that she fill out this form, whatever it might be, or I did a first assessment for potential home delivered meals. Maybe that's more appropriate. And I'm going to refer her to the senior center. And I should have changed that to Dave Stevens Yard Service. That would have been funnier. But now I can say, where's the referral coming from? This came from a local social worker. And then I can put in my notes here. Qualifies for HDM. Whoops. Got spell check built in right there, and I'll go ahead and add that. So now I have that interaction captured. I can run reports on that, of course, but at any time, if I need to go back and see what did I talk about with Willow the last time she came in, I can click on it. I can see my notes and I can see what the interaction was. And you'll notice I'm logged in as Chris Hamilton. So it automatically captures my name as the service user and the date and the time. Now I have an edit button up here. I have the ability to edit my own notes. If Kelly comes in and is pinch hitting for me one day because I'm out of the office, she can view my notes, but she cannot edit them or delete them for that matter. So we've built in another level of audit security so that you can't modify someone else's notes. Any questions about anything in those sections that I've talked about so far before I get into event programming?
Chris, I don't see any questions in the chat box.
Okay.
So let's move on.
All right, moving on. So I'm going to take us into the event section. The event section in My Senior Center is really chopped up into two halves. On the right-hand side of the screen, you'll see underneath the heading called Today's Events. Those are all the things that showed up on the touchscreen today. So those are scheduled activities for today. The other side is what we call the event templates. And the logic in My Senior Center is that you create an event template and then you schedule it to happen on different days. That's how it shows up on your touchscreen. It's how it shows up on your printable calendar. It's how it also shows up on the online registration portion, which I'm going to show you in about 10 minutes. When I come over to the right-hand side here, today's events, I'll see all the different activities that were on the touchscreen. And if I click on any one of these, I can see the actual names of the people who are either registered to attend or have scanned in through the touchscreen today. You'll notice that Dottie and Erica do not have a check mark next to their name. That's because they signed up but did not scan in through the touchscreen today. Now, I have the power here because I'm at the staff system of checking those people in if they have in fact forgotten. So I could look at that and go, well, you know what? I'm the reason Dottie didn't scan in because I was talking to her right at 8 o'clock and she ran by me and went right into the class. So I could just check that box for her. That is the equivalent of Dottie coming back out to the screen and scanning in to get into that activity. Okay. There's a print button at the top. So at any time, if you needed to give this information to a third-party instructor that you could. There's also the Voice Connect function, which I didn't even get a chance to talk about. But the Voice Connect function in My Senior Center gives you the ability to broadcast out a voice call to anybody, any list of people. Right here, I might want to let all of the Tai Chi people know that class is canceled tomorrow. I click that button, it gives me a phone number to dial and a password, pick up my home phone, cell phone, desk phone, wherever I am, because My Senior Center is web-based, you could be logged in from anywhere, dial the number that it gives you, punch in the password and record the message. Say, hi, this is Brenda calling, just wanted to let you know that tomorrow's class, Tai Chi class is canceled, but we've got lots of other great things going on. Hope you'll join us after that. Hang up your phone and send that call out to everybody who's on this list. Okay. Now, another new thing related to that, which I'm going to actually talk about right now before I get into the event templates, is texting. We have now added in a texting function into My Senior Center, and everybody in Massachusetts is going to get it. Some of you have it already. If you don't, you're going to be getting it within the next week or so. But what it allows you to do is either send out a broadcast text similar to what we did with Voice Connect. So you can blast out a text message to a whole bunch of people. And then when they respond, you can actually have one-on-one conversations with those people over text. So with Leanna right here, I can actually type a message right from within My Senior Center. And it shows up on her phone as a text message. And you can't see it on your screen because I've got my cell phone here, but I am now going to type on my phone. Hi, from my phone. Leanna has the same phone number as me. It's a wacky coincidence. But now I'm typing right back from my phone, and it shows up right in My Senior Center. So I typed hi from my phone using the text app in my phone, just a regular text app, nothing special that they need to download. And I can respond right to Chris, who's now also being Leanna and Chris at the same time. I know it's kind of weird, but now here I am at my Senior Center computer, and I can type and have a conversation with Leanna, communicating over her text, but I can do it right from within My Senior Center. So we think this is going to be a really great way to help you with outreach initiatives, also help you to broadcast information out quickly. And this is where it gets really interesting, I think, is that it's going to also allow you to blast out a link to a Zoom program that you might be offering that'll send it right out immediately to everybody and hit their cell phones. Okay.
Chris, I have a question, and
Sure.
I apologize. I was taking notes when I saw this question pop up. So I have a question here that says, how do you get to the chat section?
So if you don't have it installed already, you don't have this left nav bar. So we're testing it with probably, I think, 20 or so centers right now. You will see on the left nav bar right here, this paper airplane looking thing that we call Connect. So pretty soon, everybody's going to have this in Massachusetts. And by pretty soon, I mean middle of next week, probably. You'll have this Connect button right here on the left nav bar. And that's when you click that, you'll have access to it. Okay. If you don't have this left nav bar yet, that just means yours is not enabled on your system yet. But again, everybody in Massachusetts is going to get this. So everyone's going to have it. Okay.
All right. Thank you.
You're welcome. Back to the sort of the template logic in My Senior Center. You create an event template and then you schedule it to happen on different days. So I'll go ahead and create a brand new template right now. And I'm going to say that I'm going to call this dancing class. And I'm going to put it in my dining room. If you use My Senior Center already and you don't have a floor plan like this, that means you didn't send us one. So spend a couple of minutes with a piece of graph paper and a ruler and draw what your floor plan looks like. We'll take that, we digitize it, we draw hotspots over the room names so that when you look at the screen, you actually will see your floor plan. It can be useful. If you don't, you're happy with just a list of names, that's totally fine too, whatever works best for you. You click on the room name, and I'm going to show you a couple things that it does. Watch the maximum signups field there. Right now that's set to 50, but when I click on dining room, you'll see how that changed to 150 because that's the max capacity for my dining room. But for my dance class, that's way too big. I'm going to set that to 30. That number that you put in there is really important because it allows you to create a wait list for people who are registering to, once you've hit that maximum capacity of 30, it'll start to create a wait list for you. New button that I mentioned earlier, and now I want to show you, is this select virtual room. So what this is going to allow you to do, I don't actually have any yet, so I'm going to go ahead and add one. So right here, we really just released this. I haven't even had a chance to play with it myself. So I'm kind of flying without a net here, but I think it's kind of fun to show. So this would be a virtual program room. For example, if you are doing Zoom programs or conference call bingos or whatever they might be, you can set them up right through My Senior Center. And then what that'll do is it'll actually show that information on My Active Center. So if you've got people signing up from home for your virtual activities, all the information will be included right there on the My Active Center screen. Now here's where, as I mentioned with the texting, this is where it kind of gets fun. Because not only are we going to have an alert system on My Active Center to say, you've got a class coming up tomorrow, within 5 minutes, we're going to give you the ability to send out a text message to have everybody join within 5 minutes. So anybody that has signed up for one of your virtual programs, whether that's, again, Zoom or just a conference call, it'll blast out whatever information is on this screen so that they get reminded a few minutes beforehand. Okay. All right, then we're going to have a whole bunch of tutorial videos that come out at the same time. So when that's turned on in your systems, for those of you who already have My Senior Center, you'll see tutorial videos about how to use it as well. So I'll take this program here, this dancing class, in this old-fashioned bricks and mortar world. It seems so old-fashioned now. And I'm going to say what category this event belongs in. I'm going to say this goes into my fitness and exercise category. And it's very important from a reporting standpoint, especially if you think about the EOEA annual report. Choose the categories that are already on that report. It's going to make your life a lot easier. Choose an icon that you want to have show up next to the activity on the touchscreen. What time this event is going to begin. I'm going to say that this is going to be an afternoon class. I'm going to go from 3 p.m. to 4 p.m. And if there's a fee associated with it, I would put it in here. If I need some staff to know that, we're going to remove all tables and chairs first. And now when I create that master event, it's going to prompt me to schedule it. Now I'm going to start this. I could just click some random days on the calendar, but I'm going to have this thing go on an automatic basis. I'm going to say that this is going to be every Tuesday. Let's just make it between now and the end of the calendar year. So if you do have a recurring event, you click on the auto fill in range button and then automatically schedule it. And if all I wanted to do was to make sure that every Tuesday between now and the end of the year, my dancing class was created, then I'm done. But if you wanted to chop this thing up into a series, There's some additional things that you can do. Come over here, click on Actions, and Add Series. And I'm going to say that this series is going to start from here. And I'm going to start today, and I'm going to go, let's go through the end of August. And I'm going to call that my Summer Dance Series. And it includes all those events, all those dates rather. Now, a couple of things I want to point out down here. If this were a fee-based program, but you wanted certain maybe in-town residents or your platinum members or something like that to have it for free, you could apply a discount and utilize the groups functionality that you already would have created. Then I want to make sure that it is not available for registration until tomorrow morning, as an example. Maybe I'm doing my summer programs and it's, it's early June. I want to get all the work out of the way now so I can take vacation, but I don't want people to sign up until it's a certain date. So I can set up the registration start date and time right through here. I'll go ahead and save that. And now I have that program. So I've showed you how you can check in for different activities on the touchscreen, but now let me show you a couple of different ways that you can have people register for those activities. One, of course, is the telephone. So if somebody calls you up and they want to make a reservation for a program, I'll use Willow again. There's that dancing class we just created. And she wants to sign up for the summer dance series, the entire 9 events, done. I just signed her up like that. Now let's say that somebody wants to sign up on their own from home. That's where My Active Center comes into play. My Active Center is a web-based interface that your participants can utilize from home. You create a login name on there using their first name, last name, email address, and the key tag ID that you've assigned them. So remember when I was talking about the key tags, and you can really have as many key tags as you want. The key tag might look like that, but the back of it has that barcode. Above the barcode, or in some cases below, depending on how old the tags are, there'll be a series of numbers and letters. They utilize those numbers and letters to create that profile, and you can help them do it. And we're actually coming out with a conversion tool that will allow you to sign everybody up for My Active Center automatically. It'll email them that they have been signed up with a prompt to go ahead and change their password immediately. So once you've got people signed up for this thing, they can log in to My Active Center, see all the programs. I live in Acton, which is why Acton came up, but see all the programs that you have created. And then they can sign up for those things right from here. And there's that dancing class that we just created. So just by creating it over in My Senior Center, it'll automatically show up over here in My Active Center. And if I want to go ahead and sign up for this thing, yep, I want to sign up. I'll sign up for the whole thing. And there it goes. And it automatically will sign me up over here. And then I'm going to show you what it looks like over in My Senior Center world. So I've signed up for that whole series. Let me refresh that. And I'll scroll down to the dancing class. And there's me right there, Chris Hamilton. I registered on My Active Center for that dancing class. So even though the My Active Center is something that you would be using from home, or your participants would use from home, they can go there, see the classes that you might have created 15 minutes beforehand, sign up for those, and then you can come in and immediately see, as a staff person working at your senior center, you can see exactly who has signed up for those different programs. And it gets labeled with registered on My Active Center. Now here's something I want to mention, because we're all worried about the touchscreens and making sure that we limit the interactions with those, although with the hand sanitizer, that's really less of a concern. When I walk into the center, let's say I'm coming in this afternoon just for the dance class, all I'm going to have to do is scan my card at the scanner and walk right by. That will essentially say Chris is here for dancing class, and Chris doesn't actually have to touch anything on the touchscreen. So just by scanning my card, that checkbox next to my name is going to get checked off. So if you drive people to register for classes on My Active Center, when they come in to participate, all they have to do is scan and go. They don't actually have to touch anything. All right, I think we've got a few minutes left. What time does this end, Susan?
It's 11:45. I wasn't going to just mute you. I was going to let you finish. So we've got about 5 more minutes of the time in here before the next event. So
Okay.
depending where you are, want to make sure we leave some time for questions as well.
Yeah, the only thing I was going to show in here is a brief overview of statistics. Gives you the ability to run reports on anything that you have done. You can run reports that show exactly who's come to the center during any date range. So if I do this fiscal year, it's going to show me exactly how many people have come to the center and what they participated in. I can apply all sorts of filters to drill down on this data. So if I only want to know about people over the age of 70 and female, I can apply those as filters to get that detailed data. The other thing I'll show is the EOEA report. The annual report can be generated right out of my senior center. We work with Emmett every year to make sure that he hasn't made any changes. And if so, we embed those changes right in here so you can produce the EOEA annual report right out of here. It allows you to modify a few things if you need to, but otherwise it formats it for you and you don't really need to do a whole lot of detailed calculations on your own. We'll take care of that. All right, so I do want to leave it open for questions. Have any
Okay,
come
well,
in?
while we're waiting, sometimes it takes folks a little bit to type. So I actually want to bring something up that I'm not sure was actually addressed. So with my senior center, there's always the option, for budgetary constraints, if you can't purchase the touchscreen, if you can't purchase the scanner, you can always purchase the package of just the online access. Chris, chime in if I'm going down the wrong path here. If you pay for my senior center on an annual basis where you just have the internet access, so that means no touch screen, no scanner, you can actually, people can register by calling in and you take their names. You can have a volunteer or even a senior work-off person add those to the center, add that to my senior center. As Chris pointed out, my senior center has certain administrative privileges that you can assign. So a volunteer would be assigned one level, so they wouldn't be seeing the service side of what you're doing. So Chris, I'm bringing this up because I want to make sure that folks know that there's still that third option, right, of purchasing just that online piece. Has that changed since I was last in a physical structure?
It's only changed in the sense that we have also bundled in my active center to that as well. So if people have, for budgetary reasons, just as Susan said, if you're a smaller COA, what we call the starter version, which is the web-based staff system, gives you really the full functionality that I showed you with everything except for the touchscreen. So it includes the online My Active Center interface, and it includes the web-based staff system, and that's a much lower price tag. That's $1,200. So it certainly is less expensive than buying the touchscreen equipment.
Okay, and along with that, I actually had a question of fee for this system. So this system, I'm assuming my senior center on the 3 different areas.
So there are actually 4 different packages that we offer in Massachusetts. The full version, which is the touchscreen package, it includes the touchscreen computer and all the software. It includes the 900 key tags, sort of everything that you'd need to get going. We have 2 versions of that. The first is what we call the regular version, which I know, not very creatively named. That's $7,500. Then we have what we call the sponsor-based version, where we give you a discount in exchange for letting us go out and find businesses who want to put their ad on the touchscreen. And we'll go within your local business community. It's not like you're going to get somebody from California on your screen. That's $4,500. It includes all the same equipment as the regular model, but it gives you a discount. We basically try to make our money from the advertisers. Then there is what we call the starter version, which Susan mentioned. That's $1,200. And then we have something that's kind of in between that we call the entry-level version, which includes all the web-based staff system and the My Active Center. And it also includes 1 handheld scanner and 300 key tags. and that's $2,500. So it's sort of halfway in between. It gives you some automation for scanning people in, but it is not the full expense of the touchscreen.
Okay, and just because we're recording this for training purposes, I want to make sure it's clear to anyone that's listening to this that the fees that are related to at this point are as of today. Not saying that Chris is changing it tomorrow, but I just don't want to put Chris on the hook for, you know, a year from now if someone's taking a look at it. So Chris, thank you for that. And I actually have one more question if I could, please.
Sure.
Maybe two questions. So is someone able to walk into the center and that has a touch screen and actually sign up for the classes at that point? So this individual would not necessarily have a computer at home to do so. So they're going to walk in the center. Can they use the touch screen to sign up for all their classes?
On the touchscreen, you can sign up for classes that day. You cannot sign up for any classes on the touchscreen that may be happening in 2 months. So we confine the registration component on the touchscreen to that day or meals up to 90 days in advance. We actually, for some of you that have been around a while, you might remember the first version of My Senior Center, we actually had a calendar interface. And you could sign up for anything as far in advance as you wanted. We realized that was a horrible mistake because people were at the touchscreen for 15 or 20 minutes. And it was more of a shopping experience than a check-in experience. So we changed that.
Okay, thank you. So Chris, I think just for time purposes, we'll need to bring this to an end. I'm going to turn this over to Kelly right at the moment. We want to thank you very much. It was nice to see you again. It's been a while. So Kelly, I'm going to turn this over to you.
Okay, great. Thank you, Susan. And thank you, Chris. A lot of great information about the things that people can do with My Senior Center. And for everyone else, I'm hoping that we'll see you at our keynote address starting at noontime. Dr. Brandon Nappy will be giving some words on reimagining a more compassionate future, which I think we could all use some of that as well. And this MCOA event is now concluded, and the recording device is now about to be turned off. Participants wishing to remain online, maybe a couple of minutes if you have anything else that comes up that you have a question about, but it will only be for the next couple of minutes that we'll be able to keep this room open because we have to move on, of course, to our keynote. So thank you again for attending, and thanks again, Chris. It was great.
Thank you. Really enjoyed it. Bye, everyone.